First weekend in August. I'm up at our Wisconsin property, getting ready to do the work on the food plots. This is what we call our north field. It's on the north end of the property. This is what my wife hunts the most. The bare spots you see we're going to plant in mostly purple top turnips. And we've got a strip of clover down the side of the north field. And then we've got what we call the clover field, which is about 1/3 of an acre strip down between the pine trees on the left and the creek on the right. And before I put any fertilizer or anything down, I need to mow the clover. You can tell it's a bit weedy. I purposely haven't mowed it this year because we had a bit of a drought going until recently. So I'm gonna go ahead and mow that clover first, and then we'll throw the fertilizer down. Okay, we have the clover all mowed, weeds are knocked down, and now it's time to go back to the camper, get the ATV, and we will start to put some fertilizer down. Okay, this is the main machine we're using for putting the food plot in. Just a Honda Rancher 350 ATV, nothing fancy. For the fertilizer, it's got a tow behind spreader. Now, I do soil samples about every 3rd year, and I fertilize these fields as per the soil sample recommendations. So our fertilizer, we've got potash on the left, urea on the right. We're gonna put 1 bag of each on the north field. We'll cross the creek, put 1 bag of each on the west field, and then 1 bag of potash just on that north-south clover field. So let's go ahead and get to it. We've got the clover and the north field all fertilized. So it's time to head on over to the west field. Give you a little tour. This is a good look at our clover field. Stretches all the way down this stand of red pines, about 120, 140 yards, all the way down to that end. And if you turn here, now the trail goes down to the creek. Nice thing about the creek is it's spring fed, so it runs year round. This is our west field. This is the south end of it here. This is maybe a little 1/10 of an acre spot here, a little tiny spot. And as you head north, come into a little pinch point type hourglass that we've got some clover planted in, because this doesn't get a lot of sunshine and nothing else would really grow here. It's good to leave some annuals out for them, or some perennials rather. And then this is the north end of our west field. So the whole west field here is only about 1/3 of an acre. It's not all that big. We got a couple tree stands in here. got a tree stand right there. That's the north stand in this field. And we got another stand right up in that tree. That's the northeast stand. Chris calls it the crazy stand because it's interesting to get in and out of. So the next thing we're going to do now is fertilize the west field. I'll go ahead and do that off camera because the way this field's split up, it'd be kind of hard to video that. So I'll fertilize this field and then we'll be right back. All right, we're back at the shed. Fertilizer's all spread out. We're gonna swap out the John Deere garden cart for a spring tooth digger and just a simple harrow made out of a 2x4 and some chain link fence. And we're gonna grab a couple of hand seeders. There's one of them right there. We'll get our seed together and we're gonna go plant. Several years ago, I got tired of bringing a scale up here to our place every year when I went to plant food plot to weigh out my seed. So I just wrote a chart on the inside of my shed, how many cups of seed per pound. We're not planting any clover today, but we are planting some purple top turnips. That's 2 3/4 cups per pound. Forage oats is 3 cups per pound. So I need 30 pounds of forage oats for our west field. That's all that I'm planting over there. And I'm going to put about 2/3 turnips and 1/3. I've got some of this stuff left over from last year. It's just a brassica mix, turnips and some other stuff. But that's going to go in the north field. So I take my seed, I measure it out, put it in this big Tupperware mixing cup with a lid on it. I'll mix that up, and when it's all mixed up, I just put it in one of these little plastic containers and take it over to the field, and then I'll spread it on there. So that's half the seed for the north field, and I've got to mix up that other half and put it in another container. And then I'm going to weigh up my forage oats into a 5-gallon bucket, put a lid on that, and then we can start throwing some seed down. Okay, the digger's all hooked up. We're ready to go. The strategy here is, you can tell this field's got a little slope to it. So what I do is I want to dig it perpendicular to the slope. So when I dig it and I drag it, it still leaves little riffles. And if we get a good rainstorm, the water rolls downhill, the seed will get trapped in the little riffles, and I won't end up washing all of my seed to the downhill side of the food plot like I did a few years in a row before I figured this out. So these little spring tooth diggers, I want to show you this pretty quick. These usually come in gangs of 3. You get a left or right in the middle. This is actually the right side. They've just got a series of teeth and a depth setter. You just figure out how deep you want it, lock it in, and then you drag it behind your four-wheeler. If you got sandy soil like we have up here in Wisconsin, it works really good. And you can tell this soil is going to dig very easily. But if you've got a lot of clay like we do back in Illinois, these things are pretty useless. Well, I'll start digging this and you can see how easy this thing works. Now that we're done dragging the north field, we've got our 3 pounds of seed and just a little hand spreader. We're going to go ahead and put the seed down. Now for turnips and brassicas, they need to be planted really shallow, which is why I dragged this field before I seed it. Because with this sandy soil, if I broadcast the seed and then I dragged it, it would bury it an inch or two deep. The seed would never come up. When you plant turnips in your garden, I think you're only supposed to put the seed like at most 1/4 of an inch deep. So with this sandy soil, you drag it flat, just broadcast the seed on top. The first good rainfall sets them in, and it comes up great. So we're going to go ahead and let's get the seed put on this field, and then we will be done with this one, and we'll move on to the west field next. Now that we're all done with the north field, it's been fertilized, dug, dragged, seeded, and it's all ready to go. We're going to load everything up, head across the creek, and finish up on the west field. We're ready to start seeding the west field. That's the seed that I'm going to be using, Imperial Whitetail Oats Plus. But instead of using this Scotch spreader, or this oat seed, I'm using one of these old, it's called a Cyclone Seeder. You could still get new versions of this for $60 or $70. I got this at a flea market for 15 bucks. The old ones are wood, they're metal. You take care of them, they last forever. The reason I use this for oat seed, because you can see oat seed is pretty large. Okay. And the Scotch spreader, it's got a very tiny little gate on it. That oat seed really can't get through there. The Scotch spreader works good for turnip seed. You can see these little guys here are turnip seed. This is oat seed, so there's a huge difference. And this Cyclone Seeder, you can put a lot of seed in the bag, and you got this huge gate here that you can open up really wide and get a lot of seed to come through. So this is the best option for putting down oat seed. So let's go ahead and get this field seeded and ready to go. North end of the field is done. Let's switch over to the south end. Got about 10 pounds of seed left. Put out 30 pounds total, 20 on the north end of this west field. The last 10's gonna be here. Now that we've dug and seeded both ends of the west field, the last thing we need to do is drag them, and we're all done. That's it. West field's done. North field's done. Now all I have to do is just wait for some rain and wait for it to start growing. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you in another episode.